This will go on YouTube later.
Okay.
So we are live on LinkedIn. We are live on going
Insta.
live on Instagram. You will not, Darshan Kulkarni, my buddy, my friend. It's been too long, man.
It
Like
has.
I feel like you've been very busy.
I am just waiting for the Dan Sefer to call me. I feel like every time you call me, I'm available, but you don't call me anymore because you have important people to talk to.
Well, no, we're taking care of some growing pains at our site,
That
and
that sounds like a good
uh,
thing.
it's good. Yeah, it just requires a lot of energy.
Yeah.
You know, if you
Yeah.
don't put energy
You,
into it, and entropy wins. This is
you've got
the spoiler alert.
you've got a lot of growth happening in your life, whether we're talking on Macs, whether we're talking on sites.
Ooh, let's talk about that. I mean, I haven't slept a full night since February, and the wife's got it way worse because she sleeps right next to him. I'm one over, but yeah, but it's worth it. He's at the age now where he's actually starting to
Get
like notice
curious.
things and yeah, like getting a personality. The other day I was with him, he just starts laughing out of nowhere, like cracking up for no reason, man. And yeah, I mean it's good times. But how are
Let me
things
ask
on
you this
your
question. Has,
yeah.
for new fathers, for
And
older
Instagram,
fathers.
leave your comments. I am reading them. Okay.
That's right.
They don't show up on the screen, but I'm reading them.
Um, for new fathers who
Yeah.
are older,
hmm
do you recommend this life?
Yeah. I mean, I do. It's
You wish you'd done it sooner, or you think you were perfectly timed?
do I wish I'd done it sooner? No. I actually don't.
Really?
Yeah. I don't think so. The more precise question would be for older fathers that are business owners,
Yeah.
because in my 20s, the business was not stable enough to have my mind mentally stable enough, right? And then you get like emotions, and you don't want those emotional outbursts to leak into your child rearing. And
Hmm.
then in my 30s, I probably was in my mid 30s, I was starting to get financially stable enough.
Yeah.
Um yeah, but I don't regret it because I'm more financially stable now and I'm more mentally stable now. And probably I gave a little bit of the physical stability. Like
But
you
do you
got to
think you
trade
have that
something.
physical stability? Or I recognize that in the end, it's all about compromise and finding that
Yeah,
optimal
yeah, yeah,
perspective.
yeah.
But everyone says that you would be like you just can't have the same kind of stupid fun that a 20-year-old father would have. And some
I
would
know,
argue that
I
you'd be
can.
getting
Yeah.
done with child rearing right now while you're just starting.
Yeah, but I think the quality of the time, no, I don't think so. I mean, I think I can still have that
Okay.
stupid fun, although I did tear my rotator cuff, but I think that was because I moved the
You're really not
refrigerator.
helping a point.
Yeah,
I
I'm not
tore my
helping my
rotator
point.
cuff.
I did tear I'm getting not medical advice as you see below, but BPC
Yes.
157. Shout out to the homies, the nurse practitioner homie who can hook me up. Um, but yeah, no, I don't think I would change much um, from what I've done, and I don't think I think with medical advancements, which is kind of what we're gonna discuss here.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's getting the least important part is the
Oh, that's an interesting
physical
angle.
side, but the mental and the financial, I mean, those things are getting worse in our society, whereas, medical breakthroughs are getting better. So,
That's
yeah,
an interesting
there's a strong,
perspective.
strong case for that. Yeah, trying
It's
to put my lawyer hat on. By the way, Darshan, I had to troll you. We've been live streaming since Bitcoin was a pup, a
yes.
seedling. Bitcoin
Yes.
was AI. What AI is
Just to be
now.
clear, I'm still not wrong. But
No, you're wrong. The
I
market doesn't
do
care.
regret it though.
Yeah, the market says you're wrong.
The market says that I'm halfway wrong.
No, the market says you're completely wrong, but your thesis might still be correct if enough time,
Yeah,
which is
maybe.
looking less and less likely.
Or more and more likely, depending on how it comes out.
No, no, no. I mean, if we use the benchmark of whatever the price was back then, it's less and less
Okay,
likely.
I want the non crypto investors to tell me why they have not invested in crypto yet.
Yes, and it's not just Darshan. This shirt's for you,
All
like
you
YouTube
challengers and doubters.
commenters. YouTube commenters in 2016. Dan talking about Bitcoin. You should stick to clinical research. Okay, all right. I mean, that comment didn't age well, right?
Eh, eh,
There's a
eh.
lot of comments like that. It's not just you. You are.
Oh, I don't regret my comment.
Yeah, you shouldn't. I mean, you should hold fast to your comment. But yeah, it's
I,
just
I
a
just
little
regret
fun.
not having done it anyways. I remember
Yeah,
buying like
you should
7
have
of
bought
them.
into it.
I did. I bought 7 of them for $5,600. I remember that specifically, and sold it at 5,605 because I just didn't have the the thing for the
Oh
volatility.
man, oh man. Yeah. We got a good question. So
Ooh,
if we jump right into it, shout out to you, Chinedu. And if you're on Instagram, leave your comments. Share. Darshan is on Instagram. If you could find
I
him.
am. I'm not big on Instagram, but yeah, always to pursue patient enrollment. What do you think, Dan,
So
as a
is the
site owner?
plaque? So I'm guessing the plague of a site owner.
Oh, I thought plaque as in like he lives and dies by being a by patient enrollment. Like, is
Either
that
way.
the
Oh, okay. Maybe. Is the plaque of a site owner always to pursue patient enrollment to optimize earnings before interest, depreciate? Well, EBITDA is wrong. Earnings before interest, depreciation,
no, that's
taxes,
right.
amortization.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think, Mr. Site Owner? Actually, can I give you my
No.
uninformed opinion on
Yeah.
this, and then you
Yes.
tell
Give me
me
your
what your perspective is? I
sure.
would say, generally speaking, yes. However, it's only one half of the equation because
Mhm.
patient enrollment first starts with study participation. So, how good are your connections to get the right studies? And then on those studies, what kind of margin do you have? You can't live. Revenue is ego, and margin is
Mm.
reality. So, if you have a study where you have no margin, patient enrollment is the only thing that's going to get you something. But if you can get margin, you've got a better fighting chance. What's your take from an actual site owner perspective?
So yeah, from actual side owner perspective, I think we're not charities, right?
Mhm.
So I mean, if we were, we would be structured differently and get different benefits.
Mhm.
Um, I do think revenue is the name of the game. I do think it is vanity, but I think revenue is the first raw ingredient you need in order to form proper EBITDA. Like you're not going to form EBITDA if you have a revenue issue. You can't optimize EBITDA if you have an issue with your top line sales, right? You can optimize
Mhm.
it after. I think the first problem for most sites is how do we get
That's fair.
revenue increased, right? And the first problem for most sites is we don't have enough revenue coming in. And you can't fix that as easily as you can fix EBITDA. Like with EBITDA, you can make, I don't like making cuts. I'm a spender. Doge would have killed me if I was a government entity. Um, we save that for later,
Mhm.
Darshan. I know. Don't get too heated, man. I know. Relax, Darshan. Uh, but you can optimize that, but a lot easier than you can than you can tweak revenue. Revenue is pretty binary. It's like, are you either gonna get a study and randomize patients, or are you not? And then EBITDA is more who's gonna do the workflow. How are you gonna streamline it? How are you gonna make this consistent? How are you gonna lower those costs? That's different to me. But revenue is more the foundation. So I would say
So what
no
determines revenue in your opinion?
randomizations.
So not
And
the actual enrollment, because technically you do have site initiation and everything that goes along with it.
yeah, those are like bonuses. Like, and we're getting better. And this is where we optimizing EBITDA to Chinedu's point. Shout out to Chris, who does our contracts and budgets, he's been doing it for 15 years for different sites. He's always learning ways to get more on the startup side. Like we've realized recently that there's money on the table we're leaving from the startup, right? But that's bonus. Like you don't take a study just to get the startup revenue. You take the study presumably because it's good for your community, your PI likes it, and you can enroll patients in it. Those three things, right? That's it. Because if it's not good for your community, the backlash is going to come. Oh, well, these guys just take any study just to enroll people. You're strengthening that guinea pig stigma, which ultimately poisons your future patient database. So you want a good reputation. RPIs actually care what studies we're bringing. But EBITDA can be optimized later. That's downstream from revenue. And revenue is you not making money besides the startup fees, which I consider bonus, if you're not randomizing. And you don't have a site if you can't randomize patients. Period. You shouldn't have a site if you can't randomize patients. So, yes, I would say yes, Chinedu, but it's not to optimize EBITDA, it's to optimize revenue. That's my take on this.
Fair enough. That's a fair position. Uh, um, is that responsive, Tornado?
I hope so. Chinedu, keep us posted.
Keep us
Let me know
posted.
your thoughts. Yeah, a lot of people, a lot of site owner appetite out there.
Do you think there are more site owners now than there were before? Or do you think you're getting fewer
Yeah,
site owners?
no, we're getting more. It's going to be harder soon for sites, independent sites, to be successful independently.
Why?
But we're in the golden era. It's going to be because of consolidation. The site networks are going to make it harder. The environment's going to get more competitive. Sponsors are going to demand more for less. Ultimately, these are deflationary forces, like driving costs down. But we're not there yet. But I think by the end of the next 10 years, I think we're in a golden age for sites. And I do think it ends with consolidation. We only have something like 15% of all sites are a site network. I think at the end of this decade, it's going to be closer to half. And when that happens, it's harder to get. And the other half are going to be like the farm system, like a new doctor gets started in Boise, Idaho, and really he or she is just building a site so they could exit to a site network. Like it's just a farm system for the site networks. That's what I predict. And I'm trying to get ahead of that curve with Yuma clinical trials by building a site network independently, and then maybe PE comes later. But I realized we don't actually need the PE at this stage. Like if we can get our multiple of EBITDA to 15 to 18, if it all it takes is like 3 or 4 sites doing 10 to 15 studies each, I don't think we need money for that. I think you can do that organically if you know what you're doing. And then you bring the money. Because otherwise, you're looking at a multiple of like 5 to 8 as opposed to.
It all depends on EBITDA and what your total EBITDA is.
And the EBITDA can be tweaked. And trust me, guys and gals and Chinedu, when the private equity gets involved, they will tweak EBITDA. You don't need to
They
worry
will.
about it. That even if
You have
you
to live
think
with
you've
it.
tweaked it, yeah, even if you think you've tweaked it, they will tweak it more. That's that's what they're trained to do. They go to Wharton and all those fancy places to learn all these levers.
Right.
We go to not Wharton, we go to School of Hard Knocks. And Darshan's
Uh,
adjunct professor too.
um. So yeah. So to me, um, I think that there will probably land up being more sites. I think it's an interesting perspective you raise, which is I think the definition of a site will change. I Whether we're talking about pharmacists, whether we're talking about um, what do you call it, patients directly, I expect that we will see more of that. Um, I'm I'm curious, and I don't know the answer to this question, is will the physician remain the center point, or will site owners get higher control than PIs? I'd say like 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, the PI really controlled what happens with the site. But I
Yeah.
think that recently I'm seeing this entrepreneurial blend of owners, more like yourself, who has more power. And I would argue that in the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to see more of that. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but there's an element of the business people are taking over the industry. And is that a good thing or a bad thing? I think that depends on your perspective. It's like
And
clinicians, it's like doctors, and they are
yeah,
always complaining that you know what the CFO or the CEO runs my company, and it's not about the practice of medicine.
right. Or when they work at hospitals, right? Hospital
Exactly.
systems, like we're told how to practice medicine from people that have MBAs,
Right. Right.
and don't know
Exactly.
how to practice medicine.
But
Yeah,
the
I mean, all roads tend to lead towards that. If you look at other sectors of healthcare, so clinical research is like kind of the last frontier, really. But if you look at hospitals, if you look at private practices, like the last wave of roundups with private equity, that is exactly what happened. Is the business people got control, and this is where I mean, who's the loudest complainers in these scenarios? It's the patients, man. I mean, hey, our town is run by this large health system. They could care less. They're a monopoly. What they're doing is squeezing out the mom and pops. I I think research is unique in the sense that it's not required for a town's citizens. Like it's kind of like an added benefit. Um, I think for certain things it's bordering on a requirement, like for oncology and life-saving conditions. It's beyond nice to have research options. But if you're talking about like general medicine, like you want to test the next obesity drug, to me that's more of a luxury than a requirement for healthcare in the community, right? Despite the rhetoric you'll see on LinkedIn of right to try and research as a care option and all that nonsense, I don't think that is the way research is. I think we get into, and you would probably agree with me, you get into a lot of trouble potentially when you start treating research as a care option and not separate from an experiment, which
So I
ultimately it is.
actually agree with you as a lawyer. As a lawyer, I
Yeah,
100%
I
agree that
knew it, man. I learned
yeah.
something from you.
No, because I think if you knew that it's a good care option, then it's not you're not actually experimenting anymore. In which case, you defied the whole problem with research. The problem I face is when now as a patient, the truth is that you do land up in a scenario where you go, I don't like my care options, and the option of I don't know what is better than the option of I do know what. So
Sure, sure, of
in which
course.
case, is it still a care option? Or are we define the word care differently in that
Well, you're
context?
talking generally about urgent matters like progressive cancers,
No,
things
I'm
that
actually talking about chronic matters, like a diabetes might be an
okay,
option.
well, that's different.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm talking about, in my case, I'm talking about things like NASH or MASH
Okay.
now is what it's called.
Okay.
Um, like you're
Interesting.
going, I don't because of insurance reasons, because of the fact that there's only one drug on the market. I'm not sure that this is the only thing I want to pursue. If that's true,
Okay.
what are my
Okay.
options?
Okay. I
But
mean,
but
interesting.
it's very interesting seeing different perspectives on this. I know Goldman, for example. Shout out to Robert Goldman.
Oh yeah, he
But
made the news recently. They got some positive news out of their Australia. Somebody reached out to me and said, "Is this the Robert we know?" I'm like, "Of course, man. That dude
I
is up to big
didn't see
things."
that. He's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
exactly my response to the text. Actually, it's funny you
uh,
say that.
but no, I'm happy. I'm happy when my friends do well. Um, But my point overall is with one of the things you got to admit about Robert is he's very much the OG. And what I mean by that is he's like, I'm going to do a clinical trial as the sponsor. I'm going to go be a subject. I'm going to go
Mhm.
actually be a site monitor. I'm going to go be a coordinator. And
Yeah,
he's trying to go through as many roles as possible to get a true understanding of how this works.
a true generalist, if I
Yeah.
may.
Yeah. So my point there is I get to sit in this ivory tower and I get to go, oh, this is where like how this is how things should work. And reality is different.
Yeah, reality's messy, and then when you bring in private equity, and the goal is, like
Yeah.
Chinedu said, EBITDA. I mean, that's the first thing they think about. They actually look at these opportunities and say, I already know Dan is a free spender, and he's
Yeah.
still putting up these numbers. Imagine when we get in there, what we do
Right.
when we
Right.
squeeze more. And that's where, like, generally a founder like me is like, okay, cool, guys. I got my exit. I'm going to just,
But
get
you
out.
can't exit. You
Yeah,
can't exit in those scenarios.
you have your time. You have to
You
put
have
in
no,
your
you have
time.
to eat a lot to make that happen. So
Yeah,
um
yeah. You gotta be
and
humble too. Like there's new people telling you what to do. I think
yeah,
founders struggle with that when they're the last, they don't take it generally orders from anyone.
right.
And not because I'm arrogant, but it's because it's my business. Like I've never
Right.
had to actually
You
do
grew
that.
the baby and now someone's
Yeah.
telling you how to raise it.
I'll take orders from a sponsor. I'll take orders from my PIs. I'll take orders from my staff. But
Yeah.
I'm not going to take order from an outsider stakeholder that's into this for financial arbitrage.
Yeah.
Unless we agree on some exit plan, and you know what? I
So
did my part because our time is finite.
so that's interesting you say that because I think that a lot of people would agree with you. Um, the and this I lined up advising a lot of my clients. I'm actually advising two of them right now
Yeah, but give
on
your
this stuff.
plugs, man. People don't know. People see you and they don't know what the hell you do. They Here's what, from my perspective, sites see you as inaccessible, man, because like
You
they see
think
you. Well, your moniker is FDA lawyer. Like you seem like just priced out of their league. Like you're actually, if you come to SOS, you'll see Darshan is for the people. He's a man for the sites.
I
Just
do try to work with the
quick,
sites as much as
quick
possible.
plugs, man, for
Thank you,
your services for the sites.
thank you. Um, no, I think, and I appreciate that. Thank you. And you can just follow me on kulkarnilawfirm.com if you go to the website, or you can find me on LinkedIn. Um, one of the funny parts is that I was actually talking to some of the other FDA lawyers, and I was talking to some of the other just sort of
Did you sue
lawyers
them
in general.
for stealing
Is
your
that
name? Did you sue them for stealing your
no,
name?
no, no. Here's really what happened. I was talking to a friend of mine who is within a big law firm, and he knows what he's doing. Let's be very clear. But he and this I spoke to him probably about 2.5 years ago. Yeah, that sounds about right. 2.5 years ago, and at that time, he was at $1,900 an hour. I just heard that.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's inaccessible.
I
I
just
mean, the
heard
only
about.
way you gotta buy Bitcoin and sell some to be able to afford something like that.
Um, the other one I heard was I just this is in the last week or so. I was talking to another friend. He's in the advertising space, and he told me that one of his friends, who is a fifth-year associate, so not like I'm bringing 25 years of experience to this.
Mm.
This guy's only done 5. Works in a large law firm. His billing rate is 2,500, and I'm going. I'm in the wrong business here. So I'm like less than I'm at. I think it's less than a third of where these guys are. And so
Yeah,
I was spoke to another law firm recently, and they were like, "We love people like you, but the problem is you're you guys are higher than what our lawyers charge. So they bring me in as like an expert on stuff, like other law firms do. Um, and it's funny because they thought my rates would be what these other guys are. Like, no, I don't. Um, the interesting part for me lands up being when I actually talk to sites or I speak to sponsors. They literally don't know I exist.
Hmm.
And you and I have had this conversation before, where you say sites think I'm inaccessible. Some sites don't even know I exist. And Edie and I have had this conversation where people go,
That's a
"Who do I
problem.
reach out to?" And we go, "Us." And like, what do you do? And I actually had this question myself. I remember going to a conference by a friend that you are not a fan of. And
Shout out to we're not gonna name them.
exactly. Shout out to we're not gonna name him. But I went to one of his conferences, and he I met someone else, and I remember asking. This is going back 15, 20 years. How are we different from consultants? And I remember her giving the answer. And after 25 years, I feel like I have a very clear answer of what I do versus what consultants do. And consultants usually bring in operational expertise, which is great. And I love them for that. But
Hmm.
the strategy and seeing sort of the big picture is what I do. So someone coming in saying, here's what the FDA said is great, but that's only one part. And how does that get affected by all these other layers of stuff that's going on? For example, um, I have a sponsor right now that I'm talking to who's trying to do work internationally. And they might be involved in, like, say, 4 different countries. And one of those countries, let's say, ends up being China. Well, there's a U.S. Biosecure Act. There is a
They're still
whole
doing that.
yeah,
Hmm.
um, and the Biosecure Act went after a couple of specific companies, but then there is the actual cybersecurity law that actually is being supercharged using the False Claims Act. So if you sign off saying that we have appropriate security measures in place, and you don't, and I'm telling you that the vast majority of companies do not,
Of course.
in which case you are liable under the False Claims Act. And that comes with
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
kinds of problems.
Yeah.
So if you're doing studies in China, which a lot of companies want to do, how will you make sure the data goes properly? Do they have access to data they shouldn't have access to? All of which
Well, I
becomes an
think the
issue.
answer as a layman is, of course, they do.
Well, you have to look at that
That'll answer
comprehensively.
your question.
I'm not
Sure.
going to answer questions I don't want to answer.
Comprehensive, non-comprehensive. It's the the
Well,
answer to me
the
is yes.
penalties are very high.
Yeah. That should
Um,
deter many, I think. But I speaking of which, all right, we've entered the realm. We've dipped our toe into the pond of politics. And your favorite administration here, RFK, there's been a lot of downstream effects of his taking over HHS. And, I will admit, I'm a fan of Macquarie and Prasad. I think they have a lot of logic in how they present things. And I think I welcome change. You know, I'm I don't really swing either way. I'm generally a moderate, but like when things get too far, either institutional or authoritarian, and then you go back to like more independent, freewheeling. I like this. I think you need it in our country to keep people honest on both sides. And when things get too chaotic and too crazy, I'm actually the first one to go back. Hey, let's get a little more stability here. But the, this book becomes required reading again. Or now that Vinay is back in like a week. All right, there's been a lot of chaos. There's been a lot of speculation. I don't know if you want the timeline, Darshan, or if you're
sure.
like up to speed on what's been happening
No,
here. And
talk to me. Teach us Obi-Wan.
okay, so March of this year, the head of Sieber, Peter Marks, quit or gets pushed out, likely pushed out. He was big on approving COVID vaccines and gene therapies, but he obviously clashed with the new bosses, RFK, who RFK actually is a fan of gene therapy, but not of COVID vaccines, obviously, which is weird because Sieber is in charge of both of those. So it's like very bipolar. Like you've got RFK who's like very pro gene therapy and very anti-mRNA and vaccines in general. Then in May, Prasad gets hired, who's the author of this book, to be the head of CBER. Marty McCary, who's written another book, which I'm currently reading as well, loves this guy. He says this is the guy that's going to make things stricter and more scientific. June, Prasad shakes things up by kicking out another top FDA official, Nicole Verdun. Do you know her by any chance,
I
Darshan?
don't.
I know you kick it with these people. You're an elitist. You're an East Coast elitist. So just gotta make sure that's not a friend of yours.
No, she's not. I
Okay,
mean, I'm sure she's a wonderful person, but
we'll
she's
try to
not.
get her on the show. Um, she helped approve gene therapies early July, so this was just last month. Prasad starts changing the rules about COVID vaccines. So he's aligning himself more with RFK's philosophy that we should be very questioning of these any vaccine, not just mRNA, but Prasad specifically about mRNA. And then this makes some people mad, some people happy. July 18th, the FDA paused shipments of a gene therapy called Elevidys made by Sarepta for Duchenne muscular dystrophy. Some patients died in trials. It turns out it was not wasn't actually due to the drug itself, but it made headlines. It got sensationalized, and then a right-wing influencer named Laura Loomer, in July 26th, started bashing Prasad, saying he's anti-Trump. They dug up some of his old tweets, which he kind of was anti-Trump, where he criticized Trump. Then there's speculation that Trump kind of forced Prasad to step down. So on July 29th, Prasad said, "It's time to spend time with my family." But then a week later, I guess he spent enough time with his family because he's back. He's back. Had the good quality family time. Maybe read some children's stories, and maybe from Malignant. Maybe he read this to the kiddos before bed, and then came back August 6th. RFK cut 500 million in funding for mRNA vaccines. And August 7th, Trump and RFK have a meeting. This is on the books. August 7th, Trump and RFK have a meeting, probably to sort things out. And people are speculating they're talking about Prasad. And then August 9th, 2 days later, Prasad's back, saying the FDA said he's returning because they wanted him back. But it's clear something happened at that meeting, people think, between RFK and Macri to convince Trump that, hey, we actually need this guy here. So, what are your thoughts on this? Is this just like soap opera shit, or like does this actually have ramifications for our industry?
I'll, I'm actually gonna come at it from a completely different viewpoint.
Okay,
Um,
because I have no thoughts on this. I just really am curious
I
on
have
your thoughts.
very few thoughts on it. The only thought I really had were two different ones. One was it's to me, it speaks highly when someone goes, even if someone doesn't like me, if they can do a good job, they should be here. I think dissent is a good thing to have. Can't be all dissent, but you need to have someone who goes, I don't like this person. So if
Right.
you can be Prasad, put out publicly that you're not a fan, and Trump goes, okay, I respect that, and you can still be in this role. To me, that says something good about both Trump and Prasad.
Nice. I agree. I agree.
Um, the I'm not going to speak to the science because, quite bluntly, I don't know about the science enough to understand what happened. I think everything's speculation. To me, there's
Of
just
course.
not enough
Yeah.
there to go. Like
I think
everyone wants. Go ahead.
the only thing that's obvious is his excuse of spending more time with his
I don't think
family
that. I
was
think that's
clearly
bullshit.
lame.
Yeah. The other thing that I think is what I remember reading about was there's been, and again, it might be because I'm Indian, but there's been a lot of anti-Indian waves of speculation that have been going on. So whether it was Vinay, whether it was who was the other guy was running with Trump, wanted to almost be VP.
For the FBI?
No, no, no. The presidential candidate.
JD Vance? Oh, yeah, Vivek Ramaswamy.
Vivek. Right. So
I'm a
he
fan.
got pushed out. Well, he got pushed out. This guy got pushed out. And then immediately after that, you got the non-growth economy comments that Trump started making. And then I think Laura Loomer was making comments about that as well. So there was a very anti-Indian bend suddenly going around. And now,
Yeah, I'm not with that. Like that aspect of MAGA to me is deplorable. Like, and I honestly don't even know who Laura Loomer is.
yeah, I don't know her either.
But I've heard about her because of Prasad and all this stuff. I actually don't. I stay
Yeah,
out
someone
of
got
that echo
Vivek
chamber.
as well, by the way.
Yeah, it is Vivek. I mean, I follow him on Insta. We tried to get him
Yeah.
on the show, but
Did you?
friends of friends are his friend. But it got close. But
Friends are
he
friends
did.
of his.
Yeah. We can still get him back on. He's not inaccessible. He's like Darshan, not inaccessible.
Okay. So yeah, so to me, I'm not a I've been on that side.
Hmm.
I've been targeted for being Indian.
Yeah.
The person who targeted me literally, I think I told you about this, came at me with an axe.
Hmm.
Did I tell you about this?
You did on Guru After Dark.
Yeah. So to me, I know about these people existing, and my experiences, they seem to pop out when MAGA has
Yes.
the power that it does.
Karma J on Instagram, shout out to the Insta. We're reading the comments.
Yeah, I
Says,
don't see the Insta ones.
yeah, Laura Loomer is a horrid person, and I mean, seems like it. Like there's a lot of element of MAGA that I think is deplorable. I'm not in that camp, and a lot of it is this hyper nationalistic, xenophobic.
See, I wouldn't have a problem with any of that, but what makes someone hyper nationalistic to go, you're not part of the nation? So are you less part of the nation because
It's because of the
you have to be
lack of
white to be
opportunities.
See, I'm
Well,
not sure I agree with that.
no, I
To
think it is,
me,
man.
I think there are enough opportunities. The question is, are you going to step up? Like, a cousin of
No,
mine,
you and I believe there's enough opportunities.
and that's the
The
point. So
average, maybe not the average, but a segment of MAGA thinks it's over for them because these Indians are coming here.
sure,
They outwork us. They're going to work for less. I mean, it's the same argument for the blue collar workers with the Latin Americans. They're going to come
right,
here and do our
right.
low paying jobs for peanuts. It's not fair. Ultimately, yes, I don't agree in completely open borders. I think a
Mhm.
nation should have borders and security. I mean, that's like kind of the basic premise of a country. It's like
Right.
you're gonna have
I
security.
actually agree with that. I think enforcing borders is completely legal, and I
Yeah,
think that's
you
what's
and I are
appropriate.
moderates. Like we
Yeah,
disagree on like some of the fringes, but we're pretty much moderates.
yeah. To me, I remember a slightly different version. So my cousin lives in the UK,
Hmm.
and small he's a smaller Indian guy, and people think like he doesn't know what he's talking about, like he's a dumbass. And so some guy came up to him and went, Indians are stealing our jobs. This is in the UK. And the guy goes, I'm a Cambridge educated lawyer. Are you a Cambridge educated lawyer? Like, were you going to be able to take my job? He's King's counsel right now. Like, you're not qualified.
Yeah,
I, I
yeah.
have six degrees. I think they're all grad. No, one of them is not a graduate degree. If you're qualified to take my job, come at me.
Hmm.
The fact
Yeah.
is that it's simply not feasible to say that you're taking my job when you're not qualified for my job. In my case, I literally created the job because I run my own company. So, to that point, and I'm not getting down that political route, but to me, I go, what is the cost of being hyper nationalistic? If the cost is, you know what, we need to put the US ahead because that's what we're in it for. To me, that's fair game. But the US
Yeah,
does not necessarily just mean someone who looks like you.
right.
And
And it's
that to me is the
becoming
big
less of that, which it's a different can of worms. I think, like this LinkedIn user saying, I don't think Indians work for less. They, I am sure, are paid what they are worth. This is true, but there's a growing segment of complaints that with all these H-1B visas,
right. Right.
they are getting paid a lot. Like they're specifically being recruited by Facebook, Google,
But the
all
question
these
is, are there
companies.
enough people who are qualified to do that exact job in the US?
That's the real question. And no. And so the cost, to answer your question, what is the cost of being restrictive and nationalistic is it's at the expense of US progress because you
Correct.
want the best minds here. It's no different than the sites. Like the sites are technology is forcing sites to do their deliverables more efficiently and ultimately cheaper. Now, in the end, it's supposed to make more treatments come out quicker. It's supposed to make life better for everyone. It's supposed to increase the pie, bring more study opportunities. But if you're a site that doesn't want to improve, like
Right.
let's say you're not switching to eSource,
Right.
or you're not gonna like it used to be that it was acceptable queries don't get answered in like 14 days, whatever. That's
Right.
just haha. The
Right.
sites are busy. Now it's like almost unacceptable. Like these sponsors are like, we need, the average is
Responsive
five
sites.
days.
Yeah. Yeah.
The average is five. If you're still at 14, you're a dinosaur. Like that's not 2025
Correct.
metrics anymore. And I think that's the same parallel with
Yeah. With
workers.
anyone.
Yeah.
So I think that's the whole point. I think the interesting part as we continue is going to be how are you willing to evolve with the times? If you're saying, I want to stay the same, the world needs to stop, I think that's the problem. Um,
Yes. And a lot of site owners are saying that too.
they are. They are. Um,
I miss the good old days. You get all this nostalgia on Twitter. Like, look at the good old days, and they show like a picture of a beach, and it's all white people, and it's like, well, okay, what are you actually trying to say here? Like, there's commentary about how people used to like not be obese,
yeah.
and they're very vague about what they're alluding
What makes
to.
it good? No one's talking about what makes it good. I have no issue with
Right,
saying good old days,
right, yeah,
but
yeah.
what makes it good?
And the good old days are actually not that good if you think about it. Like
But
there
that's
are it's
good for whom?
better it's better today than it was before,
Yeah,
right?
objectively.
Objectively, and progress is here. I mean, we might be more polarized because of things, but
I don't know if that's even true. Like I was
no,
talking to
we're definitely
someone.
more polarized.
So I'm going to ask you this question. I'm genuinely curious what your take is because
Yeah.
I remember this differently. I think every generation thinks that they are as polarized as it gets, and I remember this because
Mm,
I remember Newt Gingrich doing this thing with Clinton where I think he walked out or something, and they were
mhm,
like, We've become too polarized a society." Then I
mhm,
remember George W. Bush and his reaction to 9/11, and I remember going, I feel unsafe because of the stuff I'm hearing. And that there was a it wasn't called MAGA at that time, but it was called whatever at that time. And I felt like I would be targeted. I did get targeted at that point. My
mm,
point being, somehow being fiscally responsible seems to come along with a strain of um no one look who doesn't look like me should be allowed to thrive. And to me that's the
yeah.
problem. Now if it came with, you know what, we can all thrive because we can all go ahead together, that's great. But then the question becomes, at what point does that just become woke?
Well, I mean, woke is the complete opposite end of that spectrum.
Is it though?
But it's they both are entitled
Yeah, I mean, I agree with
framework.
you. I agree with you.
Yeah, they both come from a place of entitlement. It's just one is entitlement for the status quo of how things used to be, and the other is entitlement for the disenfranchised.
Right. So
Which
if you had to choose, which one would you choose?
I don't, because I think neither are okay.
Well, you don't think you should push for, and I'm not, and I'm genuinely not making this thing, but
Mm,
either things are going to move. They're either going to move towards saying we're going to stay exactly the way things are, or they're going to move forward some way, some direction. In which case, which direction
mhm.
should it be moving? And if you're saying you, unfortunately, this is not an option where you get to go. If you say stop, that is still what MAGA is saying, or at least I forget. You had dark MAGA and red MAGA. I forget what those.
Dark MAGA was Elon, but that kind of lived for like a month. That was like the government efficiency.
Oh, was that what it was?
That was
Okay.
like being fiscally responsible, MAGA. The regular MAGA is more of these kind of social initiatives, and this is where you kind of bleeds into some of it bleeds into like nationalism and
Right.
xenophobia.
See, to
Um,
me, those are two different words,
which
though.
not everyone who
Nationalism.
voted for Trump is in that camp,
And
but
that's
there
my
are
point.
the segment. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's my point. To me, I have good friends who are very Republican
Hmm.
who are just like, no, I want good borders and I want to make sure that we're fiscally responsible. And
Yeah.
I go, that's great. I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah.
Um, but then I have other people who I would not call friends who are just going, you don't look like me. And they won't use those words. You
Yeah.
don't look like me and you don't deserve to be here. And I go, what makes you different?
Hmm.
Well, my father was here. Okay. And before him, his father was here. And what before him?
Yeah.
Well, they came from Ireland or they came from Germany or they
But
came from
there is a
wherever.
sense of entitlement in that
Correct.
statement, right? Like,
So and but
this is our
that's
country.
a weird commentary to make.
Yeah. But like, I mean, the FDA has always been political because the head of the FDA has always been appointed by the president, right?
Yeah, I think that's about right.
They always are. So they
Yeah.
change. They either change or they don't change every 4 years, based on who wins.
Yeah, for the
Who's
most
in the
part, it's
presidency.
been um, um, like a certain group of people. So Bakari is a totally different breed. I don't know where it
Makar is
takes us,
different. And this
but I
is
don't
where
know
I
if that's a
like
good thing or a bad
the
thing. But yeah,
change. This is where I like the change because I do think it got too institutionalized, and we've discussed this before, where a certain narrative of the science can be interpreted to be the only narrative, and therefore anything else that challenges that is wrong. And
let me ask you
I
a
think it
question.
got too far in that direction.
Let me ask you a question on that.
Have you read
Who?
Macary's stance on
No, no.
peanut allergies and
Let's ignore
why that
Bakari
happened?
for a second, or Macri,
Yeah,
or whatever
okay.
his name is.
We'll try to
Um,
get him on, man. Please, can we get this dude on?
my
I'll wear my
question is a different
Bitcoin
one.
shirt in front of him.
Uh, who decides what is science or what is scientific? I would argue the scientists do. Is that a fair statement?
I think it's a fair statement,
Okay, hold on. Let me just
but
work
it's
with me through
never
this.
finalized.
No, no, no.
It's
And I
always
agree. It's never
potential.
finalized. It's never agreed with you 100%. Science is not in the it's not region specific. So I agree with this person.
Science should be front and center of all the work done at FDA. Everything else, not sure what benefit that does to the community. Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
But
Um.
when you start mixing science with who gets funding, who doesn't, you can manipulate what science
So I agree
gets
with that
pushed to
statement.
the front
So
and center.
I agree with that statement. So,
And you
but
can shut down effectively what you don't agree with.
but you're assuming that that is happening. Oh, we have a global scientific community. If
Yeah.
99% of the world goes in one direction, and we go, no, no, we're different.
Hmm.
Why are we different? Why? And no one can articulate why we're different. We just want to be different because we want to be different, and that's what I worry we are at right now. We're not different because we're saying here's a principle we should argue over because the science supports it. We're saying
Right.
here's a principle we should argue over because I don't like it. I don't like
Yeah.
the answer. And to me,
Yeah.
that's where it fails. So,
Yeah.
you can't go, oh, you know what? I can get you 15 scientists that I've picked and chosen from the US. I can find you 15 flat earthers, and that doesn't make them right.
Right. But there are
So,
many instances where the established science from institutions that we trust, were
mhm.
proven wrong. Macary's
Of course,
entire
but that is the
book,
nature of science.
each chapter is about that. Yes, but the people who argued at the time against the
But,
contrarians,
but that was also Galileo, right? So the
yeah,
contrarians. So let's take contrarians and let's celebrate contrarians. But you want contrarians who can back up what they're saying. Who's
correct.
the actor from Hustle and Flow?
What's his name? Terrence Howard.
Terrence Howard.
He was
Terrence
on
Howard.
Joe Rogan talking
I
about some
know,
crazy shit.
and that's my point. He
Tetrahedrals or what? He was saying some wild shit.
and that's my point. How does
Yeah.
he have the same platform as a Neil deGrasse Tyson?
Well, he's allowed to. They're both
He's
should be
allowed to,
allowed.
doesn't make him anywhere close to being right.
And no one takes him seriously as they would Neil deGrasse
And that's
Tyson.
exactly the point.
Yeah. Yeah.
The concern is that we don't want patients in charge of the madhouse.
Correct. Correct.
And I worry that we are
But
headed
Macary's
there.
book, I encourage everyone to read it if you're willing to go to put yourself in the shoes of the anti-establishment camps. Each chapter is about a different dogma that was proven wrong, and how those
I think that's
people
great.
got effectively canceled. Like peanut allergies, the one I remember the most. I did a
Oh,
video
that's
on.
interesting.
Yeah, and now like peanut allergy, if you expose your kids, we did this with Max. You give them a little bit of peanut butter, like when they're 4 months, they're less likely to develop peanut allergies.
I can see that. I'm actually allergic to peanuts. It's more that I just don't like them.
Mhm.
But that's because I haven't exposed myself to them forever, and I don't think it's an allergy. I think it's intolerance at best. So, 100%.
Sure, but each chapter is like how real
Sure.
scientists, not
I,
just people like Terrence Howard, like
yeah, yeah,
real
yeah. Sure.
peer-reviewed scientists
Yeah.
got ostracized for going against the established status quo because money was involved. So I like this comment about science should be front and center, but there's a big but. Sir Mix-a-Lot kind of big but.
Sure.
There's money involved. And when
Agreed.
you got that kind of element and that variable, it doesn't just become about the science. It becomes what version of the science gonna make my homies more money.
So, I would agree with you that money does change things. I would also agree with you that, you know what? We should keep a skeptical eye. I think
Yeah,
what we're all saying is skeptical eye that is still rooted in science. So if you're going to come back with,
right.
I need a different version of facts. So, for example, I think
I
um,
agree. I agree.
y- y- Neil deGrasse Tyson, and I don't fully understand what he's talking about here, but he's the expert. I tend to defer to experts. You do not, and
The
let's take that
multiverse?
position.
What are we
Well,
discussing?
actually, he's kind of talking about the multiverse. Um, we they're saying that we're trying to reconcile whether there was a Big Bang. And he said it's really hard to come up with that because how does a universe have a beginning? But there's a much simpler way to do this by saying that we're actually in the middle of a black hole. And that actually explains things a lot better than the version we're using right now. Um, and it's a completely different way of thinking about the process. And right now it's in the conversational stages. It's more the let's feel out if there's anything right about this.
Yeah, let's
Let's
test it.
poke
Yeah.
holes at it.
Yeah.
You take that initial concept and go suddenly it is the new rule. It is the new origin of the Big Bang.
Right.
That is problematic. It's not a vetted theory. It's not something that's been
Sure.
explored.
Yeah. Yeah.
To
Yeah.
me, what I worry about is we're sort of taking crackpot theories that have not been poked at enough and making them the new default. They might eventually become that default. I have no problem with that, but it needs to build that consensus. And we're just going, we want new concepts
Sure.
because they're new to override existing concepts because we don't trust them.
I agree with that. Science should never be finished. It's ongoing.
Right.
But The opposite side of that coin is the qualified people who start poking holes in some of the established rhetorics
Yeah.
and dogma get ostracized. Later, it gets proven that they actually were onto something, but
But
it's
that'll
too
always
late at
happen, right?
times. Like there's entire generations that suffered because of that
I mean,
hubris.
but that's also happened when we were talking about humors and
Yeah, yeah, of
ether.
course, of course,
S-
of
But
course.
that's just the nature of science. You
So
can't
then
avoid.
it's not
Someone
really
probably came up with
political.
germ theory then.
It's not really political. It just becomes political, I guess, when special interests get involved. And because there's a lot of money in science. I mean,
Sure.
why are we in this? Like, yeah, we like what we do. We could make more probably doing something else. Like we could have worked on Wall Street or whatever, but
Yeah.
it just is what it is. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of money in this space. Like, what do we always say? At least me on my channel, there's always going to be huge demand for qualified researchers because there's a shortage.
Yeah.
And so there's money here. Like, so there's no denying, we can't just look at it like
Okay.
Mother Teresa and say, oh, it's for the science. Because then it
Sure.
starts becoming a religion. And we know if you study Roman history, Roman Empire, what what happened? You get the Dark Ages when you use religion as your
By
guiding
the way, did you
principle.
know the Dark Ages weren't actually dark?
There was the
There's
papacy
actually a lot of science and a lot of like art and stuff that happened in that period. We just don't
on
seem
the
to talk about
fringes.
it.
They were excommunicated though.
Maybe, but I think what totally different topic in a totally
Yeah.
different direction. We
Well,
do need to call it,
there's
but
actually a book on that. The History of Western Philosophy is a must read for everybody out there. It's
really.
pretty thick. I'm listening to it, but I have the
Okay.
book itself. But I'm actually halfway through on Audible because in the middle of the night when I gotta walk the baby around, I just listen to it.
Good for you.
But yeah, the Dark Ages were. I mean, that's what happens when religion becomes our guiding light, and I'm worried that science, with enough money and power, becomes scientism, and that's a very different thing from science itself.
Yeah. Sir, I do need to call it. I do need to get back
Yeah.
to the working hours.
Before we get canceled, I really want to thank everybody. Like, subscribe, comment, share. Go follow Darshan. I recommend it is now required reading again. It went from required to it's nice to now
Recommended. Yeah.
required again. Vinay Prasad, and then Marty Macary's book, which I kind of took a break from, but I actually forgot what it's called, but it's a good book.
Oh,
Trust me on that. The peanut allergy chapter alone is worth it.
love it.
And then go follow Darshan KLF. They're accessible, man. Like you guys need to
We're
reach
not
out to
charging
him.
2250.
He will scare the shit out of you, but there's some
That's part of
times
it.
where you need that. Yeah. Bye
And
bye,
and
guys.
if you don't like my thing, we've got Edie who doesn't scare the shit out of you.
I don't know if that's true. Yeah,
Oh, does she
Edie's a
scare
little
you?
more. No, she is more chill. Yeah,
Yeah.
Edie's more chill. She's also like
Fair
more
enough.
tough though.
You think?
Darshan is like scare you, but then he's like kind of more chill in certain regard. You guys complement each other well.
Thank you.
But yeah,
Thank you. Awesome.
I worked with Edie as well recently. Like, subscribe, comment, share. Go follow them both. Bye bye.
Goodbye.
KLF coin.